court of protection is a bit like an insurance policy, something you hope you never need, but if ever you do, you're really glad it's there. Its role is to ensure that the best interests of people who can't make decisions for themselves are safeguarded. Jane Bennett is the founder and managing partner of J.E. Bennett Law, which is a specialist court of protection firm. So Jane, what is the Court of Protection?
Sean, the Court of Protection is a branch of the High Court in England and Wales, and it makes decisions for people who cannot make decisions for themselves.
So when might you need the Court of Protection?
You may need it if you have not made a lasting power of attorney and you unfortunately become unable to manage your finances or make decisions about your health or your welfare.
So what kind of things might trigger that?
A catastrophic injury, a clinical negligence claim, or a loss of ability to make decisions due to dementia in older age, or mental health problems.
So in these situations, who decides if and when to go to the Court of Protection?
Often a family member is in a key position to make that decision. Usually our clients are coming to us via a loved one. But we also have an extensive personal injury and clinical negligence department. So in that instance, it would usually be a professional from a law firm dealing with that claim that would approach us on behalf of their client.
And is there ever a circumstance in which somebody loses mental capacity in which you don't end up going to the Court of Protection?
Yes, if they have made a power of attorney and it's a valid one, we can work with the attorney and give them advice on an ad hoc basis, or if it's not too late for the client to make a power of attorney, sometimes they have a professional as an attorney to help in that situation.
So the key there is you need to make a lasting power of attorney, otherwise you will end up before the Court of Protection in one of these events that you don't seek happening and you don't plan for.
Yes.
Yeah. So family then finds themselves involved with the Court of Protection. What areas, what sort of things can the Court of Protection authorise?
The court can authorise all manner of decisions around health and welfare. So usually the court prefers a decision to be made rather than appointing a health and welfare deputy. But with finances it's rather different. All manner of financial decisions can be made via a deputy in that instance. And the court has made a lot more orders for deputies for finances than it has for health and welfare.
But I guess the key thing here for people watching this who might be watching it because they are finding themselves suddenly involved in the Court of Protection, as I said, something they may not have been aware of before, is the Court of Protection is representing the interests of the person who can't make the decision, not their loved ones, not the family. Because the family might well have strong interests, strong feelings about what is in the best interests of their loved one. Would their views be considered by the court?
Absolutely. So, for example, there may be parties to proceedings as a family member, in which case they may have a legal advisor involved, and the court would certainly take their views and wishes into account. But say if you have an attorney in post or a deputy in post, they are required to take the family's views and wishes and knowledge of the client from prior to your involvement into account.
So you talked there about the Court of Protection appointing a deputy, and a deputy is basically then administering the finances and making sure the person has the right support in their best interest. Who can be a deputy?
A lay person can be a deputy. A lay person can act with a professional on a joint and several basis, or a professional can act as a deputy.
So why would a court sometimes appoint a professional as a deputy rather than a family member, particularly if the family member has put their hand up and said, I want to do this?
Sometimes lay deputies fall foul of the rules or don't quite appreciate the extent of their duties, and sadly they can be removed and a professional appointed in their place. And in that instance, we have several of those. We work with that person to try to enable them to understand what needs to be done and why.
And guide us through a little bit more of that. How do you work with, because obviously you're working, supporting the client, but obviously the family are typically closely involved. How do you work with them? And it's a long-term basis, isn't it?
It can be very long-term. We sit down with them and we have meetings and discussions to enable them to understand what we're doing and why. and we always want to bring them along on the journey. It can be very daunting for people to take this all on board, especially at a time when their loved one is in a difficult situation, which can be of very long duration.
Actually, this brings us really on to the final point, which is for the family members, obviously for the person themselves, but for the family members, their life's turned upside down. They've got the emotional distress of what's happened to their loved one. They've possibly got practical considerations. They may have to move house to accommodation that's better suited to support the new needs of the family. And then on top of that, you're having to get up with quite a complex area of law that you maybe didn't even know existed before. How do you guide them through that?
By demystifying it in as simple and straightforward way as we can, and agreeing with them what we need to do and what they need to do and why.
Jane, thank you so much. So you can find out more information about the Quarter Protection on the J. Bennett Law website, or the contact details are on the website if you just want to call them and talk through your personal circumstances.